All right. Oh boy, I'm big there. Okay. Um, you guys know that I go by the name of my column for the State Journal is called the Beer Baron. Um, that is that is kind of embarrassing tonight because I am joined by an actual beer baron from Wisconsin. I'm thrilled to welcome to Badger Beer Hour Dick Leinenkugel, president and chief beer merchant of Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company in Chippewa Falls, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And Dick, thanks for joining us.
Chris, I didn't think you were ever going to end with the news. I'm sitting here patiently waiting to do this.
What do you got?
The original.
Leinenkugel
original, and join you and Big Daddy Porter and Andy on the call tonight. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. I wish I should have gotten a Leinezo to have with you because that's a nice beer. All right. Well, Dick, the thing that finally spurred us to reach out to you to join us was actually probably one of the smallest projects that Leine's has done in recent years, of course. But let's start by talking about the new pilot brewery going into the Leine Lodge in Chippewa Falls. What can you tell us?
I thought you were talking about the new mural that we painted on the wall at the Leine Lodge today. That's really a nice project. Yeah, a new pilot brewery going in Chippewa Falls at the Leine Lodge. I gave up my office as part of the space, so now I sit right on the floor to the Leine Lodge on one of our communal tables there, and I just make everybody nervous. I'm sitting there, watching and seeing what's going on every day at the Leine Lodge. But it's been kind of fun. To borrow Jim Cook's analogy, he would always talk about Julia Child, cooking in a kitchen. And even though it wasn't his kitchen, it was still his brewmasters in there. I kind of look at John Hensley, our master brewer, as a master chef. And we're like providing John with a new kitchen to cook in. And this one isn't 175 barrels at a time. It's 3 to 7 barrels at a time.
Okay.
So he's going to be able to experiment and come up with some new innovations and maybe bring back some old favorites as well.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. First things first. So this is happening this is in the Leine Lodge, which is. Tell us what the Leine's Lodge. I mean, I know it's like a tap room, gift shop.
Yeah, so that's
offices.
That's that tourist destination that is open, and we've been open since June of 2020. We're open 7 days a week, and that's what we are. This is where people come and check in for their brewery tours, and can buy some merchandise, sample our beers, and kind of come and see where everything first happened in Chippewa Falls in 1867 with my great-great-grandfather. But we took what we called our direct-to-consumer warehouse, so where we stored the merchandise and shipped everything out that was coming in online. We took that space, which was about 2,500 square feet, and moved that over to another warehouse on the brewery grounds. So we opened up that space. That space was actually kind of where my office was as well. And we put in the brew system, as well as the tanks, replumbed, repiped, put in ventilation, a mill room, and that's all going in that space. So we're really excited about it. Everything's just getting installed as we speak. We hope to be able to commission it sometime at the end of November, first part of December, and start putting in our first brews at that time.
Okay. And you mentioned bringing back some things. It's kind of exciting. Like, what does this mean for? I mean, obviously, 175 barrels is that's a big batch. I mean, that is you're not going to make something that you're just kind of throwing against the wall at that scale. But for 3 to 5, 7 barrels, that's. I mean, what do you expect to see out of this?
Yeah, so this will give us the flexibility to test some things, Chris. So we can take it right from that brewery, put it on draft at the Leine Lodge, get some immediate feedback from our drinkers that are coming in to see us at the Liney Lodge. We could also scale it, do a little bit more, take it out to a distributor market or two, and get some feedback from distributors and their customers at select on-premise accounts. And then if we land on something that we think can go into the big brewery and will be the next summer shandy, of course we'll scale it up. But that's going to give us that flexibility to test some new things. But I also want to, kind of as a nod to our past, take a look at those hyphenated beers that we have in our portfolio. Things like the Big Eddie beers. We have a lot of fans of Big Butt Doppelbock, Leinenkugel's Apple Spice. There's a lot of them. Liney's Ice, is a local favorite. So we could take a look at bringing back some of those beers at a smaller scale and putting them on draft at the Liney Lodge.
Paige is lobbying for Fireside Nut Brown. That was a favorite of mine as well.
Sure.
Nice.
Yeah, that's another one.
So, there's not a packaging. I mean, these are all these would all be draft only offerings, at least off of this new brewery, right? That's for the Liney's Lodge and pretty much it, right?
Yeah, so no plans at this point to put in any smaller scale packaging. We do have a crawler system at our Liney Lodge, so we're able to currently do 32-ounce can crawlers. I'm going to be purchasing a 12-ounce can crawler machine, so we might be able to do some 4 or 6 packs of smaller sizes for people to take home from our Liney Lodge, but that's for the future. Gotcha.
I mean, you mentioned Big Eddie. I think, did I see that you were getting into one of your last 2011s, the Imperial Stouts?
Well, I brought something for you, Chris, tonight. I went down to the cellar, and this is the original. A lot of people don't know that
Imperial IPA, that's right.
Big Eddie Imperial IPA, it started with the Imperial IPA in 2007. We had the Home Brewers Guild from Madison come over to the 10th Street Brewery, and Greg Walter brewed this beer first. And then the hop shortage happened and the warehouse fire out in Portland, I think. And a lot of the hops were destroyed, and we couldn't get hops to do an Imperial IPA. So that's when we came out with the Big Eddie Russian Imperial Stout. And this is actually the original 2007 first one that we produced. And I actually have in my possession I don't want to open up that one, but I have a 2012.
Yeah.
That I'm going to just tease you tonight, Chris, and I'm going to actually open it. I'm going to pour it. Look at this. Oh, it's got a little pop to it yet. I'm going to put it into the Big Eddie glass. Oh man.
Okay, so I went looking in my cellar to make sure that I didn't have one, because I remember having, God, it wasn't even that long ago. I think it was within the last year where I got in my last one. I mean, it really is a beer that I think would hold up in an age where we are drinking beers like this a lot more often. Give us some
travels well, ages well. That's what we put on the. Look at that thing, man! That head retention is just incredible. I'm going to take a quaff now.
A little leathery.
It's not quite as fresh, as it used to be, but it's got a lot of nice muted raisin to it, chocolate, a little toffee. Still pretty damn good. This holds up really well. This is a real treat for me. 2012.
Oh man, I'm pretty sure.
Hey, by the way, I thought all of you should know that it was in 1984 that my wife Jean and I got married, 37 years ago. Got married in Chippewa Falls. And that Sunday night on our way back to Chicago, where we were living at the time, we spent our honeymoon night in the village of New Glarus, Wisconsin.
Mm. Any comment? I don't think there was a brewery there at that point.
There was not a brewery there in 1984, no. It was a quaint little town, a little village, and we had a nice meal and some beers.
Nice, nice. All right. Okay. Wow. That's not the direction that I thought this interview was going to go. So, but it's fascinating. Okay. So, um, uh, um, okay. So I want to talk about Liney's kind of in a little bit in the bigger picture. Liney's meaning like, I don't know. It's weird. Is it weird that the company you work for is basically the same as your last name? I'm sure you get used to it after, your whole life, but I don't know. It just occurred to me as I'm saying, I want to talk about Liney's, and I'm like, well, you are Liney. So
Yeah, well, in many ways, it's humbling to see the appreciation that our fans have for our beers. Yeah, we grew up, in Chippewa Falls, and it didn't really seem special to us. We were small at the time, relatively small, 75,000 barrels or so, mostly sold within a 100-mile radius of Chippewa Falls. I remember, my dad bringing Jake and me down to the brewery on Saturdays. He was mostly traveling throughout the state of Wisconsin, selling Leinenkugels to his distributors and then working with his distributors to open up new accounts. But on Saturdays, he'd take us down to the brewery, and while he checked the mail and read the Wall Street Journal, we would, explore around the brewery. So a lot of fond memories of growing up around the brewery. Of course, worked there during my summers of college. Worked on a route truck and staple cases for one summer, and then worked on the bottling line for another summer. Also gave tours before I was 18 and able to work in the brewery. And, we were Teamsters, had to join the union even. So, you grow up in the business, and it kind of becomes in your blood. So I don't think it's, anything special. It's just kind of what we did, who we are.
Yeah, Dick, you told me a story up in the bar of the 10th Street brewery quite a few years ago now, that I wonder, it was the hop room, and there was I guess there's like a room where they kept all the hops at the brewery, and I remember you telling me that was not the place that you liked. Am I remembering that correctly?
Well, no, I mean, the hop room was great. Back then, Chris, and when we used whole cone hops.
Yeah.
Cluster hops would come in via rail car, and we had all those stored in there. I mean, it's quite odoriferous, the smell of the hops and everything. But we would take tours in there, and the bales would be in there, and you would take tours and show them, taking the hops, the whole cone hops in your hands, grinding them up, showing them the yellow substance, the lupulin, which the brewer wants to get into the beer, bitterness and aroma into the beer. But the hop room was always one of my favorite places to take tours, because, you could really show them, and they could put their hands on one of the ingredients of beer. So it was always a lot of fun.
Gotcha. I think we were launching you guys were launching the IPL at that time, and having a hop forward beer for Leinenkugel was a little bit different at that time. So I garbled up the story a little bit.
But, probably the story was, Chris, is I'm not hops and beer.
Right.
We're Germans, and the German beers are pretty well balanced. They don't really. They use hops as a way to balance the sweetness of malt. And, for us to kind of venture outside of that and to do an IPL at the time, was quite adventurous. And I think what we're doing now with, our Leinenkugel's Lemon Haze IPA is kind of taking a spin on the hazy IPA style, using the natural lemonade flavor that's in our Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy, but yet brewing it to be an IPA and then flavoring it with that. It kind of makes it more in what the Leinenkugel style is now. And beer's doing very well, and, it's a beer I like too as well. So, hey, I've opened my horizons to IPAs over the last few years as well.
Nice. I wanted to ask about you held up the can, and I was reminded that there's a change to that branding that's happened in the last I guess year or so. You dropped the Indian Maiden logo from the packaging. Can you just talk a little bit about what brought about that change and kind of balancing the the tradition of that I mean, 100 years, right? I mean, a long time, versus the deciding to make that change.
Yeah. So, when you look back at our history, Chris, um, Jacob Leinenkugel, when he first started, probably didn't brand his beer, right? I mean, he was one of two
Right.
breweries in Chippewa Falls. It was probably known as Jacob's
It
Lager,
said
and he
beer on the
delivered.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, it said beer. He delivered kegs. It was mostly draft. Maybe people brought their pails to the brewery and filled them up. But when he started branding the beer, he called it Pilsner. And on the trademark, the first brewery trademark of the J. Leinenkugel Brewing Company was this waterfall. Looked very much like this depiction, J. Leinenkugel Brewing Company, Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. So that was his first brewery trademark. It wasn't until after Prohibition that the third generation of the family brought back beer and that original recipe, Jacob's Pilsner, and branded it as Chippewa's Pride beer. So the pride of the Chippewas, the original Ojibwa tribe that lived in northwest Wisconsin, and lived and hunted and fished and worked in and around Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, and as a tribute to that Native American tribe, Jacob, or the third generation of the family, called their beer Chippewa's Pride beer. It later became Leinenkugel's Chippewa's Pride beer, featured the Indian Maiden, and then just Leinenkugel's. But as I always tell people, throughout our history, we have not exclusively used the Indian Maiden on the logo. When we first came out with Leinenkugel's Red Lager back in the early 1990s, 1993 or 4, it featured our barn on the logo. When we first did Leinenkugel's Honey Weiss, it featured a farmer thrashing wheat. When we first did Berry Weiss, it was a bird picking some blackberries out of a bush. So there were times when we didn't use the Indian Maidens. I think a lot of people think that we always had that Indian Maiden, but I think we embarked on a refreshment of our label and our look. We landed on something that people really liked. They liked the throwback to our heritage of Chippewa Falls and the original brewery trademark, and we went with that.
Okay, great. One of the things. So usually we cover this in the news section, but I since this was so there are truck crashes, beer trucks crash.
Yeah, they do.
I think we've had at least 2 or 3 of them in the news section, and everybody always, I don't know, people love that story because it's like, oh my God, no, or oh my God, look at all that beer, I wish I was there, or whatever it is. But I need to ask you about this one because it was a whole semi full of Liney's Oktoberfest. So what's going on with that?
Fake news.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how WEAU out of Eau Claire, Channel 13, reported it. It was misinformation. It was Leinenkugel's Toasted Bock. So our new winter seasonal, Chris, it was going down to the distribution center where it's going to be married up with other loads of Molson Coors products out of Milwaukee.
Okay.
Yeah, so we lost a truckload, but we put 300 more barrels into the brew cycle. So we'll be able to make that up, and there should be no shortages of Leinenkugel's Toasted Bock, unless our drinkers drink us out of it, which I hope happens.
Well, I know Andy was getting into one this week already.
Oh, great! Yeah, I haven't had it yet.
He was hoping that it was a fresh one from this year, not something that
Yeah.
was left over from last
No,
year.
it
So,
should be. It came out last week,
yeah. Okay.
as well as our chocolate dunkel.
Yeah, the chocolate dunkel. This is kind of a new beer this year, right?
It is.
Oh, he's got one. He's ready.
Yeah, I do. So I'm really excited about this, but it's mostly because I really love chocolate. We're going to do Snowdrift Vanilla Porter, but it's only going to be in the Leinenkugel's Brewology pack, our variety pack. So this will be a limited release brand that will be out on the shelves during the same time period as our Leinenkugel's Toasted Bock, basically now through whenever it runs out. So I'm thinking, January or early February. We use a dry hop process, and the beer sits on cocoa nibs to get the flavor in there. So I mean, it's absolutely tremendous, rich, dark, chocolatey. You don't have to have chocolate cake or ice cream for dessert. Yeah. You can just have Leinenkugel's chocolate dunkel. It's going to be one of those you want to snuggle up by the fire on a cold winter's night and really enjoy this beer. It's fabulous.
Nice. When I think about the beers that Leine's has done really well that have kind of resonated with me, Snowdrift is one. What was the one? Well, I mean, Toasted Bock I thought was really good too.
Great beer. And one of my favorites, Chris.
It's interesting. Like if you'd asked me 10 years ago where I thought Leine's would be in 2021, I didn't think it would be like, yeah, they're doing really well with a lot of dark beers, but here we are, So
well,
I guess hats off.
Our original, our original dark lager, Creamy Dark, which we now call Dark Lager, is actually our most award-winning beer. When you look at the medals that we've won in Great American Beer Festival or World Beer Cup in that American Dark Lager category, Leinenkugel's Creamy Dark, now Dark Lager, has garnered a lot of those medals. So we've been successful producing those beers.
Awesome. All right, Dick, I've got one more thing I want to ask you. And I asked you, before this interview, I asked you like things that you might want to talk about. And there was one that I felt like that you said that I could hear the hurt in your, and this was last week when everything was a little bit more fresh, but I'll just ask the question the way you suggested it could be asked. Did you jinx Christian Yelich with your sponsorship?
So there's a little background story there, Chris. My daughter, Katie, who's joined us in the business now, Katie works on the marketing team, has really led the Christian Yelich partnership. And she's met Christian, has been out, doing the filming of the spots this spring in Arizona, and has become good friends with Christian's management team, et cetera. So I'm actually putting it all on her.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not us. It's
so you didn't. Yeah,
my daughter Katie. I didn't do it. No, but I can tell you that if you want to go to Leine.com, we do have these great jerseys, and they aren't selling all that well right now. So if you can put that out to your fans out there, the LH22 with the Leinenkugel's logo on the front, they are available at Leine.com.
There you go. I do want to throw it open to any of my co-hosts if you guys have a question for Dick that wasn't asked.
Yeah. So just going back to the layout of the Leine Lodge, I've been there a couple times, and I'm just having a little bit of trouble wrapping my head around where this new system actually is. Is it on the floor where the merchandise used to be, or is it somewhere that wasn't like open to the public at the time?
Yeah, that's it exactly, Andy. You never really saw the area where it was. So as you walked in the doors to the Leine Lodge, of course, we have our four-sided big stone fireplace. Mm-hmm. And to the left of that, as you walked in, there was the registers, where you would take your merchandise, and right behind that was my office. And then there was an area right adjacent to that. So that is where we did all the merch for the floor, the retail floor, stored that. Our keg cooler is also back there. So that's exactly where all of the brewing equipment is going, is in that space, about 2,500 square feet of a 15,000 square foot building.
Wow. It's hard to imagine that there was that much space hidden away there.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah. Very cool.
And it's a big timber building, so the ceilings were open. We didn't have to do a lot there. Have to put in some ventilation, some piping, obviously some utilities, water and sewer, but pretty good place to build it. And we're going to have a big window so people will be able to look in. And we're actually going to do a little bit of a bar in there as well, kind of a sampling bar in a little meeting space. So if people want to have a meeting in a brewery and do some specific sampling afterwards, we're going to be able to accommodate that.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Looking forward to visiting at some point.
Well, Dick, thank you for joining us and tantalizing us with Cellar Big Eddie's and taking us down memory lane. And hopefully we'll be able to get some of those into our mouths pretty soon. That's
yeah, maybe some fresh ones coming from the pilot brewery system in Chippewa Falls.
Be great. Be great. Yeah. I got to put in a plug for, I don't know if it's my favorite Big Eddie, but it's definitely close. It was the Wee Heavy. That beer had one of the best aromas that I can recall. Like for some reason, that like kind of toffee. Oh man!
Yeah, this is the
that's the Uber Oktoberfest. Yeah,
that was probably my favorite, Chris. But yeah, the Dutch Ale was interesting. The Wee Heavy, yeah.
You have your whole cellar over there, Dick?
Don't have them all.
I was going to have them all.
I want to like can down to that.
I had forgotten about this one, the Royal Nectar.
Oh, that's right.
That one was amazing.
Like the braggot is kind of a braggot.
Yeah.
Honey.
Yeah. That's an amazing memory you have, Chris.
Dude,
I'm a fan of these.
I spend a lot of time thinking about beer, so.
I was going to say, this is the best beer room ever. He's just pulling Eddie's out of like nowhere. It's amazing. That's just my comment, and I'll leave after that.
I'm like my brother John. We're all hoarders, and I have a few.
I gotta say, hoarding the Imperial IPA, that's 14 years now going on. 14 years?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that one's gonna hold up. Kind of a barley wine thing going on now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the IPA is going to taste like. I think I'll leave this one in the bottle, but let me tell you that that Big Eddie Russian Imperial Stout holds up really well. Yeah. Outstanding.
Awesome. All right,
great to be with you and all your listeners and fans out there, and keep doing your good work, guys. Taproom Travelers is fantastic, and Chris, you're doing a great job as the Beer Baron and now with Milwaukee Magazine. So congrats.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Dick, thanks for the time. Glad we could give you an excuse to get into the Big Eddies, I guess.
Well, yeah, and keep me up past 8:30 at night.
There you go. All right. Cheers, Dick. Thanks.
Prost.